So we will start the session. Hi everyone, my name is Shreyansh Vasa. I am the host for this particular very difficult session for the today because post-lunch sessions are very difficult. So hope you all are full. To make you more full in terms of security, in terms of smart security, we'll start this session. We call it a Tech Varta. Tech Varta, previously it was a Tech Varta Express and all, but this time we are giving full time to all the panelists. It will be at least 45 minutes of panel discussion. The topic for today is smart security, integrating AI and IoT for enhanced safety across critical infrastructure. Very interesting topic, and our panel is also interesting. To start with our panel, we have our session chair, our moderator, very known, Mr. Suraj Shankpal. So, Captain Suraj Shankpal is a head of corporate security for India and Philippines, and he represents Wells Fargo. Welcome, Suraj. Yeah. Thanks. Moving next, our next panelist is Mr. Sanjay Agarwal. He's the chairman and CEO for Techno Consultants. Thank you. Let me invite Mr. Saikat Datta. Mr. Saikat is co-founder and chairman for Deep Trade and Risk Trade. Would like to invite Mr. Chandan Banerjee. He heads Technical Security and Automation at Adani Airports and HQ at Ahmedabad. I'll invite Mr. Samir Kumar Jha, General Manager, Security and Fire Safety at Bharat Diamond Bourse, BKC Mumbai. And last but not the least, Mr. Mahesh Gavane, Director, Security Shells and Cybernetics. So, stage is all yours, Surajji. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think it's an interesting topic, and we will take a lot of segues from what we spoke in the morning. And what we want to do, and I'll just read out the name of the topic: Smart Security, Integrating AI and IoT for Enhanced Security, Safety across critical infrastructure. What we want to do is we want to first talk about, what are the problem statements from a security operations standpoint? What are the pain points? Where we think that maybe a technology like AI and IoT devices and their integration will help us to make our operations efficient. In addition to that, we also wanted to understand, are there certain problems where we don't need this kind of technology and we should go with time-tested procedures, people and system. In addition to that, we obviously have a very diverse panel with people from the operations side and obviously people from our technology teams, and really good conversations that we've had in the preparation for this. Then we would really deep dive into what are the technologies that are available, what are the technologies that you should use for a certain problem, what are the technologies that that can be used to just not only do efficiently your work, but also to take it to the next level, drive global operations locally from India. Thereafter, we're obviously going to talk about some challenges. We're going to talk about some new regulations that have come in and what we all should need to keep in mind when we go from where we are today and then upgrade ourselves, get technology integrated with our operations. So I'll pause here and I will start with Samir. Samir, my question to you is, from a security operations standpoint, what are the key challenges, problem statements that you think this integration of AI and IoT can solve to enhance, of course, the entire security posture, safety across your critical infrastructure? And then how can we use technology as a force multiplier? I know there are a lot of different viewpoints of technology, but I really wanted to understand how we use it as a force multiplier in your security operations day to day. Samir.
Thank you, Suraj. Thank you, Pacc 2025, for inviting us and this Tech Varta. And all the gurus and seniors are sitting, and we are discussing on this IoT, artificial intelligence, challenges what Suraj has asked and how it can overcome with the technology and all. For the critical infrastructure, we are at world biggest diamond booths where we do almost 35 to 40 billion dollar import export. So here, Suraj, before adding AI and IoT, we are still with the forge, where what people can do, people can only do. System is man behind the machine. So we are taking too much efforts to keep our man force, physical security in line. Either it's a motivation, duty of care, taking them in participation and all. And with this, we have achieved whatever the company's expectation, what yesterday Sureshji was saying, company expectation, whether we are matching or not. We have exceeded it. So in case of lost and found, it's 100% recovery. Even if you lose a pin inside the boots, you will get it back. And that the value ROI perspective, it's 45 CR. So it has happened because of technology. Now we are coming to technology and IoT. We have 3,600 cameras installed in the campus with 6.5 petabyte of server recording. We are viewing the cameras over 30 frames per second and recording at 30. When engineers, IT guys and everybody said too much space, I said only one thing. I want to view the camera on 5 frames and record on 30. And as usual, these engineers always feel that securities are, how is it possible? I can then do what we want. So that is why we are on 6.5 petabyte. That helps us. So we have not cut corners by cost. What is required to achieve that critical infrastructure to protect, we have not. And because of that, since last 12 years, we have a zero case. Now we are again changing the whole infrastructure in which access control, CCTV, AI, face recognition, lot many things. But when you take everything on the single platform, it's still an issue. Last time also, 24 Tech Varta, I said, I need only one thing from the partners and the users perspective. 3600 कैमरे हैं. सुबह से सूरज को 4 कैमरे ने देखा. I want 100 कैमरेज में बताओ ये कहाँ कहाँ जाके आया है. Simple question, sir. All tech gurus, still solution is not there. So even though going on a very big scale of IoT integration, then garbage in, garbage out होएगा. क्योंकि our security force in the first session, second session, 15,000, 20,000 and आत्मा बाहर आने लग जाती है कि इतना security को. Then what we will going to get? Certainly IoTs and are easing the job, but unless until we take care of human, its cost, it is going to be difficult. And force multiplier, sir, we have to play on the front. We have made the department in such a way that we are not sending the people pillar to post. I am only responsible for 6-8 portfolios which is related to life safety. So whomsoever is having any work has to come to single department. So that is how we have become the force multiplier for the organization perspective. Either it's a fit out or anything, people has to come single line. So that is how, sir, जो मेरा साल का single budget for the manpower है, people are not feeling it's too high. Because 6-7 departments, either security, fire, safety, medical, events, everything under single, people will not have to go here and there, and there is no ego clashes. So that is how, sir, we can be helpful or helping the organization to grow in that.
Got it. I think the problem statement from a security operations standpoint is too complex. Every organization has its own different challenges. And obviously, we are looking forward for technology solutions. And as Samir brought out, there are solutions available, but there are some solutions that are not fitting our requirement. So I really want to move on to our technology partners, and Mahesh, I'll come to you. What are the steps organizations can take to future-proof their smart security systems? And I'll add a couple of more so that you can answer it in one go. How can organization balance the physical security and the cyber security element of it when integrating obviously AI and IoT devices? And how can AI improve the threat detection in critical infrastructure, which is very important, especially to somebody like a Samirja, who's before they moved to BKC. If you look at the past diamond market, they have been bombarded. There were bomb blasts. There were anything, everything that could happen has happened with them. So he's very clear. This is what I want. You give it to me.
So thanks, Suraj. So coming back to whatever Samir sir was talking about, the requirement from the end, from his perspective. Okay. See, basically, when we talk about technology, one thing piece is missing between, and we OEMs are the culprits there, is the convergence of the systems. Okay, because the convergence is a piece that has been missing. Okay, and now I coming from the identity and access management side, so access control. So I work, I give my reports separately. There's a CCTV system which gives its own thing separately. But then now he as an end user, if I take this as a use case where we want to track the employee within the premise, so basically I would give a report saying that, okay, which all access areas he has accessed. It's a separate report. But then if I do an anti-passback violation, so I am not swiped the card itself, but I am within that particular location, right? So that has to get to be tracked by the CCTV. And when it is tracked by CCTV and in access control, then combine both of them and tell them, okay, I saw this person out over here. Simple. So this is where the convergence of systems is very important. Okay, and that is one piece that has been missing. We, as an organization, just advertisement, that we are doing this activity where we are trying to bring this together. That's one. Second thing I see from an identity perspective, because when we talk about security, security is about only two things. One is the person who is out over there, and one is the premise, right? So, and based on that, now third angle has come in, which is the data, right? So, all the information. So now, when we talk about an identity, okay, identity convergence is also not there. Okay, what does this mean? This means that I use a card, facial, finger, whatever it is, at the door, okay, or at the entrance. But I go to my laptop and use my username and password. So there the person changes. The Mahesh Gavane, the card or fingerprint is not going to work, right? It's a username and a password. And if I go like in small thing like a cafeteria, I go there and then see that, okay, I have to give my cafeteria coupons. So there my username and password is not working, right? So what I mean to say is that there is an deficiency about convergence at the identity level itself. Okay, which needs to be converged and brought onto a single piece. That is the reason we are talking about technology today. A lot of technologies are there. Okay, but today in larger organizations also there is a process of clearance when you resign. Okay, before your last date, and that clearance is merely and physical activity. Okay, nothing to do with the systems, but it is a paper that you get signed up from that admin guy saying that, okay, it's an ulta process saying that I have resigned, okay, now please take my identity card, okay, and then give me the signatures. Or probably I go to IT and say that I have resigned, now please disable my username and password. It should not be that way, right? It has to be a single point provisioning and single point deprovisioning, right? So if that thing happens, the convergence is going to take place, right? So this is a second aspect that needs to be brought in. Third is when we talk about a credential, which brings a convergence, a credential also has to be secured. Okay, so now just last week I was in US and then I was at the immigration and they were capturing the photograph when we were, for a domestic flight also, when we were getting into the security area. But they had said there that if you don't want yourself to get captured, please let us know and we will, other process into it. That means the person's identity is becoming very important and it has to be very personal to us, right? But then today what we are doing, obviously, when we talk about a card, we talk about other stuffs, okay, which are not to that extent secure, okay? So it has to come something which is personal to us, might be a mobile access, okay, might be facial, okay, might be a fingerprint. It is, so it becomes an much more secured kind of a scenario. Okay, nowadays, so card has started coming in Apple Wallet and Google Wallet, right? And Samsung Wallet is also getting introduced now. So the thing is that when Apple Wallet, when it is storing your credentials for your credit card, okay, it can also store a credential for your organization, and which can give you a convergence. So these are some of the aspects. Okay, one is OEM should talk to each other. So we cannot have any open system per se, but then the thing is that it has to talk to each other. The second thing, you have to basically have a convergence at the identity level. And third one, a stronger credentials. And on top of it, at the end, I would like to tell that when he gave an example of identifying something, right? So we need it, we have all the data available with us. But then how do we work on that particular data? Nobody is looking at that data, to be very frank. Okay? Today, access control systems are there. I'll give one example. I open the door and I take 10 people along with me. Okay? Tailgating, and then we talk about having a CCTV and all that stuff, or anti-passback violations, trying to put in multiple measures out over there so that this can be avoided. But then, Mahesh is doing this every day after 6 p.m. No, nobody is identifying that. Mahesh is doing this only on Saturdays. Nobody is identifying that. Okay? That means there is no correlation, because when the door is kept open, that has been treated as an alert which goes to the central command center. Okay? The security person says that, oh, door is open, somebody has to go there, there's a noise or alert has come in, close the door, right? Or if I do it and if they find it, I have done it, I would say sorry. Okay? And I would move away. But it doesn't stop me from doing it next time, right? So basically data correlation, usage of that particular data, and bring a meaningful output out of it, that is where AI helps him. Okay, so we can take that particular piece, okay, and then say that, okay, we can bring in risk analysis. Okay, now coming back to your cybersecurity scenarios, insider threat is a very big thing, right? And Suraj, in OSAC event also, there was a single topic on that, right? So what is insider? Insider is an identity, okay, or might be a visitor, might be a contractor, whatever, that person, right? And there is a threat based on that. But are we doing a risk analysis of that? Okay, on that particular data, which is available with us. We are not doing that, right? And that's where the systems has to be in place to give a risk analysis for that particular data. Okay, a simple thing, as I said, that I went through, I was been caught, I did an anti-passback violation, I said sorry. Now when I say sorry, in a mail also I can be documented, like, sorry, it was by mistake. So now this doesn't stop me next time. Again I'll say sorry, right? Now if I say that you give us some score to that particular person saying that you are so much risky. Okay, you have violated this much, so this is a risk score for you. Okay, and HR says that if your risk score is above that threshold value, your HR parameters will get affected. Simple. Okay, I myself will start stopping doing that because it's going to affect my salary. That's it, right? So I'll stop doing that. It's a simple mechanism. This can be deployed, but then yes, using these tools, we can get the data and we can look into it. So that's it from my side.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. We'll move to the next panelist, Sagid. Couple of questions for you, and of course, take your time to explain, the types of AIs, and then also talk about, the privacy. So, how can an organization ensure privacy of the data collected by all these, IoT devices? How do we ensure the reliability of AI if implemented for enhancement of our safety security posture? And then again, we'll talk about how do we manage the cyber attacks, the threats that are there in the environment to protect our systems from being hacked or from being vulnerable to cyber attacks.
Thank you, Suraj, and thank you, Pacc, for having me here. Also, we are lucky we have a fairly live audience. Nobody's fallen asleep after lunch, so that's a big relief. So thank you for those questions. So I'll just quickly, drawing on what Samir has spoken and Mahesh has spoken. First, what Samir said, he's made a very important point: garbage in, garbage out, which means if our job is to, as security professionals, to look at aberrations, something that is out of the pattern, which Mahesh was also referring to, does it make sense to have so much of information that we get overloaded and therefore we miss the needle in the haystack? So basic concept is, do we therefore increase haystacks with more information? But as security professionals, we can't afford to, नहीं दो कैमरे यहाँ भी लगा दो, ये analytics, दो RFID readers यहाँ, etc. We are constantly worried that did we leave anything out? So we look for excess information. So the haystack becomes bigger. Then we are trying to find that needle, but the database is much bigger. So how do we do it? Maybe AI can at that point help, because AI is also about taxonomies, that if I have my threat register and I know these are the kind of threats I'm looking for, then I start collecting the data, I write an ML code which will then I have to take a lot of time to train that code before it can develop into some kind of an AI. But the question is, before we do any of that, I'll ask slightly different questions. That is that, what is the aim that we are trying to get? Like for example, if we are looking at access management, if we are looking at people management, then I have to, some basic concepts: joiner, leaver and mover. These three people, if I'm able to track them successfully, and there if I can use my IoT and AI, I'll have largely secured my organization. But again, if it's not just people, but I have also to do, like in his case, when you have to do material management, prevent loss prevention, etc. Where does our technology come in to prevent by tracking what is an aberration in behavior? Personally, I'm yet to see good use cases, because we work with a whole lot of regulated entities. Like we are working with banks, we are working with people which are listed on the markets, etc. We have to, first of all, as security professionals, recognize, and this is something that Colonel Bakshi in the morning, it was a very interesting session. He made the point that, if security has to be taken seriously as part of business, we have to, first of all, as professionals, recognize we work in an extremely complex regulatory environment. So if we are working, if our clients are listed or regulated entities by RBI, etc., there is huge amount of compliance that we have to do. With the coming of the DPDP Act, our jobs is going to become much harder, and because we have to survive within that compliance and regulatory environment, we will have to design security mechanisms which, without running foul of those compliance and regulations, we are able to get what we are looking for. Now, just to take this a little further, tomorrow if I were to do AI, that means I need a large database. So I will collect everybody's, for example, facial recognition, etc. Now the question is, will I now do the data management on-prem or will I do it on cloud? If I'm going to do it on cloud, I'll have to do another set of security controls. So I have to do security of security. Now, I'll give you another interesting thing. But if I'm a RBI regulated entity, I'll not only have to do security of security, I'll also have to do the compliance of security. But if I am an IPO listed company, etc., then not only do I have to do security of security and compliance of RBI, but also ensure that SEBI is also compliant with, and SEBI is looking at RBI and said, तुमने इतना निकाला, मैं भी कुछ निकालूंगा. So then I'm not tossing between two regulators competing with each other. So the question now is, do I still want AI? People like Samir will say, yaar chodo, mere 4 jawan lagao, they will do a better job. Their intelligence does a much better job. So coming back to this is that, where I'll now end with what you asked about the privacy part, we have to recognize that while we in security tend to look at privacy as just a esoteric concept, it's just etc. The conversation we had over lunch, fact of the matter is, a 10-judge bench of the Supreme Court said that no, this is a fundamental right. Now, some of us will say, no, we don't recognize it. But it is recognized as a constitutional scheme of things. The regulators are now becoming very serious about it. And a 250 crore penalty is not a joke. I mean, I don't have it, maybe some of you can. But if that compliance has to be done as security professionals, we are professionals because within that complex regulatory environment, we also have to take a techno-legal approach. And therefore, by taking the techno-legal approach, where AI will fit in, where IoT will fit in, we'll place it there without adding more complexities, because the idea is to increase efficiency and not decrease it.
Got it. Excellent. My next question is to Sanjay. What role does IoT play in real-time monitoring and response? Again, key benefits of the integration between AI and IoT devices. And then let's talk about how do sensors and AI-based analytics work together to detect anomalies. And we'll probably double click on it, and if you can walk us through what it actually does.
Yeah, thank you, Suraj. So thank you, Pacc, for having us here and being part of the eminent panelists. And I would really second what Saikat said, and it's quite into, and he's already spoken a lot about it. So there's a very thin line between all these, So, talking about IoT, I would say specific to security as in physical, okay, that is one, but I would like to bring in majorly to two different domains, When you talk about specifically to healthcare, where IoT is playing a very big role today. Maybe in efficient healthcare practices, wherein there are wearables and there are sensors around, which plays a very important role. And even in fact, there's one very use case is the infant swapping, the child gets swapped, the children, and that is a security issue again, and which is a genuinely human, and it's very sensitive. Second use case is very important is when you talk about the boarding schools where there are specific campuses wherein the students are not allowed to carry mobile phones. So there is no identifier. So that's even more important. And then we plan to do what is make them again wear a kind of a wearable, or even more, because that may not be mandatory, or even the child may not understand the sensitivity of it. So the third thing, and we are actually trying to do is somewhere is putting a sensor in the collar of the shirt, of the dress, and which is actually coded to every student. So those are some very use cases wherein, but these are part of security. And very security, when I say is, again, you all, as parents are very sensitive, and you have actually sent a child to a boarding school where he's in there, and you are actually not able to contact them. A student walks from the hostel, goes to a academic block, and he's out somewhere, and never know where he's gone for. Next 1 hour must be bullied, pushed him around on the bushes and something. So these are the where, actual the IoT as in come in, wherein the 2-3 ways of doing it. One is having BLE sensors, and as our NFCs and stuff. It's not NFCs, the BLEs. Second is the FR for the cameras, But again, it is, are you in that vicinity, and is the camera watching you? That is one. Okay, you can be tagged along. Third is the geofencing, which comes in. So these are when you talk about the IoT part of it. Adding to the question what Suraj just mentioned, they're all like a very thin line, as I said earlier, is the artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is more like a tool. So unfortunate, we were discussing over lunch, people have a fear that, okay, artificial intelligence comes in and would take off the human jobs and things. No, it's not so. So artificial intelligence is very important as a collective data, which has to be rightly analytically analyzed and taken on. So till we do not get the right, so it's more like, you can say the false alarms could happen, the right anomalies can happen. So it's more like understanding of it, getting the right data and rightly processed. So these are very key to it. So I would put it that way.
All right, thank you. My last question is to Chandan, and we'll obviously do some more discussions and then open up for the audience to ask questions or obviously share your viewpoints. What are the challenges in deploying the AI as well as IoT in the existing security systems, and how do you manage the entire cyber side of the things that we've been talking about, and then how can you improve the AI more better to make sure that it works for us, it does threat detection, especially in critical infrastructures?
Thank you, Suraj. Thank you, Pacc and FSI, for giving us this opportunity. Thanks all for joining, and to my esteemed participants here. All have highlighted their aspects and their points pertaining to AI and IoT. The question was pertaining to how does IoT and AI work in this environment, and we ensure cyber compliances also. And the third part is the threat detection. Okay. So with my exposure in multi-sectors like oil and gas and now in airports, we have now seen that AI has stepped in and is being used in multiple applications for the benefit of the business and the management. If you talk per se for airports, in airports we have had our own department of AI, which is working very hard to bring in lot of efficiencies. I will just relate few of them, plus also on the loss prevention side also. Not only pertaining to security loss prevention, but on the monetary loss prevention also, because that is how the business runs in the airports. Now, if you talk of IoT, use of IoT and AI in this requirement for airports, we have a very strict compliances laid in, wherein if you talk of IoT devices, now these IoT devices, if they are purchased, supposing from the European or the American companies, has to be Cyber Resilience Act compliant. Because this act, which is not prevalent in India, but I think in India, the Digital India Act, which will be replacing the IT Act of 2000, which is 25 years old. This DIA Act has the DPDP Act also. This DIA Act every year is getting augmented with a lot of inputs. Presently also it is in 25, lot of suggestion is sought for IoT devices, cloud computing, and cryptography is various other things. Coming back to the requirement of IoT in the airport environment, what we are trying to ensure that the authentication part of these devices are rightly governed. Now, if we talk of the European Cyber Resilience Act, it clearly defines the total product life cycle of the IoT device. The manufacturer is mandated to comply to it. So that becomes an advantage for customers like us, for the multiple industries all over the world. So as a part of this act, the entire life cycle of the manufacturing plus usage is very clearly laid down and mandated on the manufacturer, and the manufacturer ought to comply to it. Okay, so to highlight few facets of this, like one is pertaining to the authentication part. In the authentication part, it lists few things like you can say digital certifications, then identity authentications. So if these are foolproof, then no untoward system get into or get into the system. That is one part. Then other part is the communication protocols. These are laid down very strictly, wherein all are aware that TLS is used wherever there is a web application. So TLS 1.3, which ensures proper encryption and keying of the data, so that dekeying and encrypting, decoding it also becomes very, very efficient. Then there are other few regulations, but it also states certain compliances. Now, that is segmentation of the network. Now, that is also of paramount importance, because industry to industry, this understanding may change. But if you go by regulations, it gets streamlined. So now what industries are doing, I have seen in oil and gas also for some 15, 20 years, I was there, and now into airports also. The automation part is segmented or distributed into OT and IT. As our esteemed speakers did mention regarding intruders, inside intruders. So cyber, through this architecture of OT, then IT, wherein IT means you go for compliance of ISO 27000 series, and for OT you have to comply to IC 62443. So when you go for this compliance, what happens if the access, like security surveillance system, which comprises mostly of the VMS, the video management system, and the access management system, if these are kept on the OT domain, which we need to, if we comply to IC 62443, it helps to comply to insider threats. We will not go into minor details, but this is broadly. And it also takes care of the perimeter intrusion, which means the intrusion from outside the premise. So if it is in OT, then you are segmented to the IT through a demilitarized DMZ, through a demilitarized zone. It has its own architecture. So these segmentations help not only prevents a cyber attack, but also takes care of insider threat. So this architecture is being used in various industry, like oil and gas is a very sensitive industry. So they do obviously use this, even in airports. It's a highly regulated industry, wherein everything, every technical points, know-how, specification, trial directives are laid down by the regulators. That is MOCA, that is Ministry of Civil Aviation, and Bureau of Civil Aviation. So they are laid down very clearly, and there are repeated audits onto this, and the cyber compliance each airport operator has to ensure. Because of these regulations and periodic checks, these specific manufacturer or OEM regulations, as I've spelled out, like DPDP or Digital India Act, which is getting augmented, and does not include everything that we have in other products which are manufactured in Europe, as I've said. But these sort of regulations, when gets upgraded, these IoT and the AI platforms will certainly be able to give the required availability or uptime to the entire system, so that it is good for the business as well as availability front of view. Now, when you talk of the third question, which was pertaining to threat detection. Now, threat detection, which is a feature, can be based on edge. Edge means on the edge devices, or it can be server based. So there are a lot of implementations in airports. In oil and gas also, 15 years back, we did implement a lot of security and HSC analytics based notifications, which used to come directly to all the departments, whether it is security, operations, HSC, everything, direct notifications. So these were AI based, which happened 15 years back. Now when I'm in airport now, even in airport, there are n number of AI based analytics. I can just go on speaking on the number of analytics, it is more than 50. But there are certain major ones which generally we do not talk of. I will speak on those, a few lines on those. That is behavioral, human behavioral detection. So this is one which is getting implemented. Then commotion part, then use of force in airports, which means all these three are basically to deal with the behavior of the individual. The commotion, which is creating confusion, then use of force, then helping the elderly and the child. So all these AI detections are into the implementation stage, which will certainly help in the entire operations and the quality of operations in the airport. There are many more, like one more very tricky thing is, Digiyatra, which is in use in all the airports, but tailgating is one issue which happened in one of the airport in India and led to a lot of interrogation from the regulatory body. So not only we are working through AI, but also the OEMs, like there are a number of OEMs for the e-gates. They are also working on the AI part of it. So AI can be beneficial if put forth in proper perspective and shall give good output to enhance the business.
Yeah. You like to add something? Yeah, sure.
As sir said, for the risk, threat and all, in the airport, we enter through Aadhaar card. With the boarding pass, they name the matching the name and allowing. Other than that, that 12 digit, how beautifully we Indians are in Photoshops. That 12 digit numbers are not getting verified. एक पेपर प्रिंट पे नाम लिखा हुआ बोर्डिंग पास ओके एंड यू आर एंटरिंग. Digi Yatra has solved many things, but how many of us are using Digi Yatra? Hardly 1 or 2, 5%. Suraj Sahib, those who are continuously moving here and there. Hardly. We try. Same thing in our organizations. Every day 5,000 visitors are coming. Many of doesn't have the digital. We are the first one who has launched the visitor app over the Apple and Google Play. You download and do there. But finally we understood, क्योंकि जो पुलिस वाले आते हैं, तुमने आधार कार्ड लिया था क्या, उस पर एड्रेस है क्या? एट दैट टाइम AI IoTs आर हेल्पिंग, बट पुलिस स्टेशन कोई जाता नहीं IoT. देन द CSO हैज टू गो. देन आई रोट टू Digi Yatra's CEO, was kind enough to help me out, and now we are launching visiting Bharat Diamond Bose with a same sort of API. We are checking your Aadhaar card, and all DPDP and everything is Digi Yatra CEO is handling. But whomsoever is visiting Bharat Diamond Bose, I know he is genuine Aadhaar card holder. Tomorrow, if police has to take care of anything, they can integrate with them. We are not keeping any data. So soon, in 10 days, we will launch. So if you have to visit BDB, you have to put your 12 digit. It will verify with Digi Yatra. And on the current face, because you have given 15 years back your face, it will take the current face and will match and say whether he is the genuine or not. So we want that last mile. We can talk, IoT can do anything, AI can do anything. Sir, access control में dashboard नहीं है. और जितनी anomalies की बात महेश भाई ने करी और बाकी लोगों ने, sir, there is no pattern reading. So now people are coming with BI and all कि ये से होगा is future, कोई दे नहीं पा रहे हैं. So that is not the pain, but this is where the people have to converge the physical security, brainy people, AI, IoT और the last mile कि इनको क्या मांगता है और कैसे it can be solved. So that's.
No, absolutely. I think the problem statement is there on the face. I am very sure there are a lot of our partners who are working towards resolving it, especially the last mile. In the end of the day, we want to deliver good service. You had a point, sorry.
I have one point. I'm pertaining to what Suraj said. A lot of AI implementation, but there are certain difficulties also. Like in airport perspective, which everybody will know, this number plate, license plate recognition. Now this license plate recognition is centered, the data is centered to the number of plates that is recognized. Correct. And you will be able to check the fraudulence out of that inventory only. But regulatory body now is trying to take it a step further, where we integrate with the RTO database. So if you have an integration with the RTO database, then probably it becomes more foolproof, no? Yeah. That these are faulty or non-regulated or some issues or blacklisted.
Whether it is genuine or not.
Yeah, whether it is genuine. There can be duplication also on the number plate. So those are the lacuna parts, those are the shortcomings in the system. And to implement everything in totality, whether it is government, as you said, there is multi-cascading approval, no? It becomes so difficult. Yeah. So when these are all sorted out, system mature, I think it will be a good system which will help.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we are spot on. Obviously the couple of systems that we really work on, the access control as well as the CCTV, which collects majority of the data. I think we need, platforms and technologies and of course AIs to help us from a investigation perspective, help us from a identification perspective, help us absolutely from a crisis management perspective. I think we still don't have solutions for whatever, emergency evacuation. We still don't know on X floor how many people are, out of those how many people, how many are fire wardens, out of which how many are PWDs who need support, who are whatever, pregnant women. We have no clue. There is a lot of data, but it's not been placed in a way where we can drive information, intelligence, and obviously take decisions based on the data that we see. I think there is a lot that we as an industry need to do together. And of course, I will echo what Samir said. It's important to understand the real problem statement on the ground, and then build on the platforms which will help all of us. I think a couple of other points I really wanted to make was, and then this is something that even our panelists kind of covered, this is just going to help us be more efficient. This is just going to help us drive our business in a way which is easy, seamless, faceless, absolutely, streamline things. In addition to that, we can drive a lot of global businesses from India when we leverage technology. Reduction in cost, reduction in manpower, just driving efficiency. But at the same time, let's be very clear, we are all here for one thing only, is your employee or your customer experience. I think this technology, when they all start talking with each other, the experience that an employee or a customer gets without compromising the security is what we are all looking for. So I really like to thank all the panelists for sharing their diverse views, and obviously your passion comes out when you talk. So thank you very much. We have some time, unless our chair says push. We have
We can take 2 to 3 questions.
And
at max.
if there are questions, please ask questions. But I would also, encourage you to talk about certain use case or certain ways in which you are using some of these technologies, or certain problem statements that you are facing. And then I'm sure one of our partners can help us to maybe take it forward from there. Thank you. Yeah, please. Yes.
Very quickly, when Mr. Banerjee was talking about when we can have DMZs and we can have this, etc., for every scenario he was putting out, in my head was running a hack to each of those scenarios. Because we have actually seen it. So he said DMZ. We have had a case where somebody did not update their server, so it never got patched. It was found, and then they breached the DMZ and then took control of the entire network. Somebody then made some change somewhere. The guys came in, they got control of the Active Directory, end of story. So for every scenario, there is a hack. So therefore, we have to be also very practical in terms of that. What exactly are we looking for? What is the end result we want before we opt for that architecture?
We are looking for this sort of access card everybody is using, sir. This only activates once you reach to the lobby, where the reader is there, because hardwired. We want wireless. From last 1 decade, all the big players, I'm not taking the name because we all know they are the sponsors also. Sir, we are not getting the reader wireless, because for my organization, from peon to president, irrespective of any designation, if he is coming by car or bike, he will be scanned on the periphery. And right now we have then the desi jugaad, all the conduit pipe, and then put the hard readers and cables and all, and then we are punching. But there is 0 wireless readers. And
absolutely, we know the problem. We know the problem statement. I think one of the other things I really want to share, and of course I don't want Colonel Kishore to wait, but is hardcore security professionals, especially like me, non-technical completely. I think what we've done, and I think I'm very sure others in the industry will also do it, is we are not cyber experts. We are not from that domain. We don't understand few of the things these guys said. I have no clue what they are saying. But what we've done is we've understood this issue. We have understood that nope, we are not an expert in these domains. And as an organization, we have moved away from buying CCTV cameras and access readers and controllers and all the technical stuff that we buy from security. We are now buying it from technology teams. So the budget sits with the technology team. It's the technology team who drives both the hardware as well as the software. But I am the end user. Within the function or within the organization, he is the vendor, I am the client. So they will look at what I want, but they are the ones who are driving the technology. They are the ones driving the platforms. They are the ones who are driving the compliances. Because it's impossible for us, and I'm sure me and Samir have no time to look at all these things. We want to, our job is every day firefighting. We've got to get it right. Sorry, sir.
Just one point. As he said very it was a pertinent point he noted, no, if having all sorts of architecture level. So 2-3 things which industries, enterprise level industries, big industry groups are ensuring is very strict cyber compliance and going through regulations, plus periodic audits and checks. You know, whenever I have had experience, when we would used to have EY or PwC or Deloitte coming for audit, there was once a guy, he was an MTech in cyber. He said, I asked him, I mean, how does his work profile goes every day? Because he was nominated through a contract to come for an audit, which happened for around a month. Now, I asked him, he said, see, my job is we have other contracts also. And generally in bank, they every month or every quarter, they carried out penetration test. So that sort of an activity is not done in industries. But in industries also it has started. I mean, you may not know now. I mean, for information of all, industries have to be sincere enough to maintain a system. Just a wishful act of maintaining what he also said is not going to serve the purpose. It is going to keep black holes in between. Absolutely. And it will jeopardize the entire system.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kishore sir.
Yeah, okay, great. Firstly, thank you so much. Such a great perspective from all of you. I think they deserve a huge round of applause. We were not doing that. Thank you. So my first question, in fact, point related to you, Mr. Chandan, was you spoke about ANPR, or the automatic number plate system. So just an update for the audience here. Maharashtra has gone a step ahead. They have given a deadline that have high security number plate systems installed in all the vehicles. After 1st of April, they are going to start charging 1,000 rupees if it is not so. So I think that's a very good step which will assist not only the airports, all the corporates as well. Second point, which I think we were having a discussion with Mr. Datta, I think you can throw some light on that. We were having a conversation in which we said that Digi Yatra, I was of the opinion Digi Yatra is really helping us out, because the load on CSF is lesser, and then there is no checking, and the line outside the airport is almost gone for the Digi Yatra people. He was of the opinion that only few percent people are using it. Once everybody comes on this side, then the problem still remains. So I wanted to understand from you, in case there are any more positive outcomes of Digi Yatra inside the airport, having used it outside.
See, Digi Yatra was implemented in airports, and there were a lot of shortcomings in the system which has been plugged, basis data privacy. Because when, see, recently when I mean, there were many intimations from FSI for this conference, and this is my first conference that I am visiting, but previous one also there were communication. Now when the communication happened, they said that no, we will not take your Aadhaar, and we want your other identities. So this, see the perception. The perception is that Aadhaar is such an ID proof which is used everywhere and have a lot of information. So that's why they said that not Aadhaar, anything other than that, you can please send to us as an ID proof. So Aadhaar has been used in Digi Yatra. Okay. Now data privacy compliance need to be ensured by them. And it is of paramount importance, because these are all citizens of India. Right. And the data of the Aadhaar card need to be secured. So they have augmented it. It is only for the moment during the entry exit that the data is shared to the airport, because once you do it in the app, you will see data sharing to airport is also shown there. So certain steps are being taken. It is evolving. There is a committee for Digi Yatra which is upgrading it day on and day in. But there are other systems also in the airports which is pertaining to the access entry permit. Entry permit for any airport staff from any operator requires an AEP card. Now that AEP card is also getting augmented. But here when we are discussing with all the operators and the regulator in the TSC meeting, we are not more inclined towards Aadhaar here, because this is a very big system. which is handling more than 30 lakh of identity proof all over India. Data needs to be shared to all the airports. Supposing AEP is created in one airport for giving approval for multi-airports, then the data needs to be shared, isn't it? To see the amount of architecture. So here we are not going with Aadhaar, therefore. We are going for other means.
I'll just make a quick reply to what Colonel Kishore said. I've visited China, I've visited Turkey, I've visited Singapore, and I've visited the US in the last 3 or 4 years. All of them have a terrorist problem, well known, etc. In none of the airports did I need any identification to enter the airport. So the point here is that you see there are different ways where you can actually make it much more seamless. Like for example, when I went to China, I was part of a track 1.5 initiative between the Indian government and the Chinese. And luckily we went just before Doklam, so we all made it out also. But getting in was not a problem because we saw that they were just using our passport as an identity and it was seamless right through, including handing over our baggage and so on and so forth. So where the caution I'm saying is, don't create a solution which is looking for a problem. First look at the problem, then create the solution.
All right.
Let me just ask you one question. All these things you have done, okay, to identify somebody or to find out something, some gap and all that. What are you going? How are you going to solve it? You need a quick reaction force to go and stop that intruder coming in or doing something. What are you talking about? That for you need physical manpower there. You can't send robots to stop it.
Absolutely. I think, sir, what we got to do is we got to have a risk-based approach, and you guys can also chime in. If it's a low risk or if it's a medium risk, like for example, I'll give you, we are looking at an alarm, we are seeing an invalid badge. It's a low risk from my perspective because it might be some other issues. I can go into the camera and look at who swiped the badge and what and why. And obviously, if it's all good, no problems. But if I see that there is this individual who we've not known, there is a problem in the badge, or this guy looks like a terminated, the badge is terminated, then I might use it and I'll send somebody to pick him up. So based on the risk layer or the risk classification, we will then use physical manpower. I don't think we are at a stage where manpower or security guards will be, thrown out of the system. But for the majority of the work, which is low risk, medium risk, we can definitely leverage technology to bring in efficiencies. The other part is, right now, all of this is below the radar. We don't even know it is happening. I think technology will solve that issue. It will pick it up and make sure that low and mediums are addressed. For IRIS, we definitely have security. Yeah, sir.
Just one question.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's not working. Okay, fine. So the question is, we talk about analytics. We've talked about AI. Now let me come back to analytics, right? Now, when I talk about analytics, I find that irrespective of, the kind of quality that a person puts into that analytics, there are a large number of alarms, false alarms.
Yes.
I want somebody to tell me, how do you sort that out?
So you're talking about alarms from an access perspective or all?
All.
CCTV?
All. My control room will have...
Yeah, of course, there is no signal.
So, I would like, because Mr. Chandan has oil and gas experience. I also have oil and gas experience, by the way. So I would like oil and gas to answer this, because oil and gas has kind of,
Sorry, Chandan.
developed this issue.
Oil to oil gas.
Oil ko gas de do.
No, you are right. I mean, like a lot of AI implementations, we did so many POCs. I was also involved in. But we find that initially it takes time for learning. Just immediately within a month we cannot deploy the system. These are learning from the systems. Now, as he said, it should be a risk-based analysis. The ones which is critical ought to be done through physical presence. But those which do not match up to that level. So there are many projects which are running now, which may provide good efficiency will go into the production stage. The ones which are not able to do will not be going into that stage. Coming to oil and gas, I mean, you are talking of alarms pertaining to the surveillance, security surveillance system?
Yes.
I'll tell you, when you have a centralized control room in oil and gas, you know, there are tremendous amount of alarms in that central control room, which is process related. All I'm saying is when there is a process related
I will come to that. Yeah, I am a process automation guy.
yeah, that's why I asked you. What I'm saying is that
Yeah, I will.
when they've been able to reduce it.
Yes, yes. I will tell you what we do now. Like when I was speaking on the OT front, no. So now the OEMs of process automation in oil and gas has matured over the period of 20, 30 years now. There are very good OEMs now, and the alarms are being handled through a separate inbuilt module. And as you said, in operations for the process automations, they are monitored because in oil and gas, everyday alarms are monitored, and therefore the inefficiency and the unwanted ones get removed, and only the needed ones come. So if an alarm, single alarm comes, it is weighed and analyzed, risk analysis done, and action taken. Similarly, if you talk of AI has a long way to go on this. And that is basis the POCs that we have carried out now on multiple aspects of predictive analytics, video analytics. It has quite a mile to go.
So I'll just add up to what Mr. Banerjee just said, you know. So the best example is in the news, you must have heard of DeepSeek and all those, you know. So, and you actually put a question to DeepSeek and ChatGPT, you'll find a different. So it's more like training and intelligence, you know. So training is most important, and the way we talk about human training, the AI also has to be trained, and the database and the ML, what is happening. So absolutely right, what he said is it's yet to get matured. The things would go on, and it's more like learning. So practically learning is most important, and then only you can expect a right answer from AI to happen. Yeah.
I think.
Sorry, there's only
Yeah,
one
please,
point.
please, absolutely.
On the false alarms and the nuisance alarms, okay? The industry is now talking about a new way to do this, okay? What they're thinking is basically whatever activity you don't want to do, you want to do all mundane activities, okay? AI is going to solve the problem for you because it's easy for you to learn, make them learn, okay? And adapt it very quickly, for example, okay? So a lot of people are now working on that specific thing, okay? And even, for example, okay, when you talk about how to give an access to a specific person, okay, for example, okay? These are all activities, basically non-interesting activity for a person sitting in a control room doing.
Absolutely.
These are all going to be overtaken by
AI.
the technology like AI. It's AI.
No, absolutely spot on. I think, yeah, please.
I'll just add up one, you know what Mahesh said on specific to the single login stuff, you know. So actually in IT companies and specifically in the pharma where the data is very important, and data when I talk about specifically, MDM is something what we've been using, but BYOD, you must have heard a word, wherein you bring in, and when he said the person comes in and for a short duration and then he may be moving off. So the MDM, wherein the intellectual data is very important, the camera goes off. So when I'm talking about these, it's not necessarily to human security, it is data also. IPR is again a very important part of it. So those things are there, and it is happening, wherein, you know, it is not necessarily the day you are off or your mobile is off. In fact, this is a single identifier today, you know. So this guy is being carried, you know, and it is actually becoming as important as a human as an identifier. So that adds up to this. So single login things are happening now, wherein you just get in, and as he rightly said, there have been instances when people come in and they are identified, and till they are in the premises, they are hooked on, or rest they are out, and their credentials are accordingly being taken care.
Yes, this is what we have, but then if I would have explicitly said that we are doing this, it is an advertisement, so I didn't say specifically about it. Yeah, but we can chat offline. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think even we were going through a process of, so 2 years back or 2.5 years back when I joined, a single building used to throw 100,000 alarms on a monthly basis, and it's huge, and it's all noise. We know about it, but beyond a point of time, we didn't even look at it. we have to go through multiple. It's not only technology is the only solution. We went through multiple to understand, okay, why do we have so many readers? Is there a requirement? And that's when we realized that 70% of our rooms were actually common areas. So we scrapped all the readers. So we probably, and I'm giving you very hypothetical numbers, we have, say, one building, 3,000 readers, 95% readers have been removed because these are actually common areas. There was no logic for having these readers, but I know there are companies where even washrooms you have readers. So we removed that, 95% removed. Still, the numbers were very high. And again, there are various other issues, you know, right from hardware to even the freaking door alignment. I don't think in India we've ever got the door alignment right. But then we've reduced it slowly, steadily. Now what we are doing is we are hardening our perimeter, meaning if you want to enter into our facility, of course you'll have to enter through the perimeter 1 or perimeter 2. Perimeter 1 is mainly physical man guarding because the flow is such huge. If I create equipments and barricades, you know, the traffic havaldar will be in my office every day. And then the second layer is when we are looking at full eye turnstiles with facial recognition, one of the top of the line, no tailgating hopefully, and obviously very authenticate. And then even in the parking, maybe a full eye turnstile as well. And then once you are inside, then you don't need to badge unless you are entering into a restricted space. So I think in the last 2 years, sir, if I am talking 100,000 alarms, we've now have 1,000 alarms. It's still huge, but it's still much better. Maybe a 99% reduction in the alarms. Now this 1,000, again we reduced it. Say if it's a first alarm, we look at the camera, we look at the reader. If it's a risk, we escalate to the second stage. If there is no risk, we close it. The second stage, we obviously deploy a security guard or a patroller to go and see what has happened. He says no risk, we shut it. If there is risk, we next stage. Then we identify the people, get them, investigate, blah, 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 blah. And then of course penalize and all. So there are various ways of tackling it with, but I think the low risk one should be dealt by AI. I think rightly brought out. I think we have to leverage this. Otherwise, you know, we are just again back to the same noise. And I'm very sure in the next 1 or 2 years, we'll again be back to 100,000 alarms.
Alternatively, there are technology also changing, okay, in terms of non-learning sensors, okay? The sensors are coming of learning sensors, okay, for example, okay? So they are predominantly going to the oil and gas sector because where we know, for example, tuning to a certain parameter, it's going to be taken over a period of time, okay? Now there are sensors, okay, with auto-tune themselves, okay, to the kind of an effort it is required, thereby reduce the noise right there.
Yeah. And I think there was some conversation on the cost as well. Frankly speaking, we don't position ourselves very well. We are really poor salesperson. In fact, sometimes I feel, do we really believe in our business or not? So like I was doing an audit in an organization, not this, a different organization. They had some massive gaps in their loss prevention. Like anybody can take anything. And they didn't even come to know about it because they were not even inventorizing it. So I was just asking the business head, or it was, I think they used to call it the unit head. I said, how often do you change your manufacturing processes? Upgrade, whatever, integrate, update. He said, maybe in a year, twice. Maybe in a year, twice. And I said, how often did you upgrade or change or integrate your security system? He said, maybe 30 years back. I'm like, how do you expect the 30-year-old system to operate and save something which is so precious, which you are upgrading every 2 years? So I think it's us who have to drive this conversation with the management. I don't think there is any dearth of money. It's us who have to convince them. But before we convince them, let us be convinced. And I think our technology partners and our vendor and OEM partners, manufacturing partner, if we come together, I think we'll have a much better positioning. Sorry, you had a point, sir.
I think we are
Chair.
extending the time. Should I continue?
Chair will not allow me to come in the evening.
Shreyas has been using active intelligence to
I like that compliment.
No, I was speaking on his point, what he raised, no? So we had some 7 years back, oil and gas conference in Delhi by government of India. And it was pertaining to technology. Like as here we have pertaining to all fire and security system. So therein we had put forth the use of a digital twin. Okay, you know that for oil and gas, the sales is a big headache. I will not go into it, but we had proposed implementation of digital twin there using IoTs and cyber compliance. So anything further, I think this is not the purview so that I to go into detail, but if need be, you can connect. I will just
Yeah,
go through it.
we are aware of it. Okay, we are also doing as part of our, and yeah, in the oil and gas industry. Okay, like.
So thank you everyone. I would just give one compliment that it was a very interesting session, and I think there was a lot of participation, re-participation, right? And with this, we will end this particular panel session here. But before ending, we would like to take one group photograph. I would request all the panelists, delegates to be here on the stage.
Have you taken our consent?
Consent is more important.
I think ready, sir? RS Abdul?
Ready, sir? Wait. Wait பண்ணுங்க.